At the beginning of the movie, a reporter named Vivian arrives at a crime scene where a woman is holding a 7-year-old girl at gunpoint. Vivian moves in closer to get a better angle, but the cameraman, Benji, opposes this act, saying he doesn't want to be part of it because this is wrong. Ignoring him, Vivian grabs the camera and proceeds to report. But as she steps inside, she says the place feels familiar, and to her shock, she realizes that this is her own house. Then Vivian hears a noise and sees a woman beating her friend, Nanuka. Confused, Vivian enters the room and finds Nanuka lifeless on the floor. She then hears a noise and sees the same woman aiming a gun at her mother. Just as the door slams shut, she quickly rushes to check on her mother and pleads with the woman not to hurt her. But to her horror, the woman, who is also Vivian, coldly replies that it makes for a better headline if her mother is dead. Terrified, Vivian begs, "Please go away." But the demonic Vivian turns to her mother and pulls the trigger, leaving Vivian in utter shock. We then see the demonic Vivian reporting live, saying they are in the house where her friend, Nanuka, died, and her mother as well. She then turns to face the real Vivian, who jolts awake from her sleep, realizing it was a nightmare.
Comment, subscribe to Recapss Horror.
Later, her mother reminds Vivian that today marks the 13th anniversary of her father's death, adding that she's sure he would be proud of her. Vivian gently tells her mother not to overwork herself, warning that the tumor might come back. But Monica replies that she enjoys what she does, just like you enjoy your work. She then encourages her to go out and chase those scoops, saying it'll make her even more famous. Next, Vivian and her team, Louise and Jasper, preparing to go live when a strange woman suddenly interrupts Vivian, saying, "Share my blessing." Vivian politely tells her they're shooting, but the woman places a bracelet on her wrist, claiming it's a blessing. When Vivian asks what kind of blessing, the woman replies, "You've been having nightmares, haven't you?" Vivian asks, "What does she know about her dreams?" And the woman cryptically says, "You buried the truth, and now it wants to break free. But don't worry, from now on, you'll see them even when you're awake." Vivian asks, "Who are they?" And the woman points and says, "Look over there." Vivian turns to look in the direction she pointed and sees a mysterious woman standing at a distance. However, when she turns back, the strange woman is gone, and Vivian realizes that everyone present has disappeared. Then, she notices a cat walking toward her, just as Jasper calls out to her. Snapping her back to reality, she asks if they're ready, but Louise tells her that Miss Sylvia wants them back in the newsroom immediately. And when Vivian asks why, Jasper explains that her first expose, the cement massacre involving Ernesto Malugue, the security guard put in jail, is now free. They return to the newsroom, where Sylvia, their boss, tells Vivian that she wants her to interview Ernesto. Vivian insists she's not comfortable with the interview, but Sylvia says brilliance isn't comfortable, reminding her that her father didn't become a legend by playing it safe. Vivian asks if she's invoking her dead father, and Sylvia coldly says yes, adding that her recent work has fallen flat. But this story, she claims, could make Vivian the lead host of Untold. After everyone leaves, Vivian asks why the bracelet is still there, and Louise says Elaine asked to give it to her. Sylvia asks, "Elaine?" And Vivian clarifies, "It's a different Elaine." Sylvia then tells Vivian that what she is looking for is that old, hungry Vivian, who is always ready to devour all stories, like she was before, back when Benji was her partner. In a flashback, we see that Vivian and Benji shared a close bond, and even her mother was fond of him. Benji had plans to take Vivian with him to Canada, but she was uncertain about leaving, concerned about her mother's health. That evening, Vivian goes to meet Benji and tells him she saw Elaine, but Benji doesn't seem interested in talking to her. She pleads with him, saying she doesn't have any other friends, but is shocked when Benji comes from the opposite direction. Benji heads into the archives room without saying anything, and Vivian says she'll just leave the spaghetti there. That night, at Midnight Bar, Vivian tells a woman she's finally going to confront the men who did nothing while her daughter was raped. The woman hesitates, but Vivian encourages her, calling them shameless and urging her to let out the anger she's been holding back. Vivian's show begins, and she questions the men about why they didn't stop the rape, to which one replies that he didn't want to ruin anyone's fun. When she asks if rape is just fun, he says he doesn't know and doesn't care. And another says they only wanted to post it online, but got suspended from TikTok. When Vivian asks if they felt no guilt, their expression begins to change, and one of them turns it back on her, asking, "Didn't she feel guilty when she didn't do anything?" Suddenly, the lights go out, and one grins, while the other accuses her of just watching them too, and allowing it to happen, asking, "How are we any different?" His body then begins to convulse, causing him to fall to the floor, and then rods burst from his back, and his face is covered in cement. Vivian watches in horror as he stands up and then levitates into the air, and before she can react, he lunges at her, pinning Vivian to the ground, repeating the question, "How are we different?" Vivian appears dazed as the men mock her, and just then, Louis arrives and asks if they should begin. But Vivian remains unresponsive. Louis calls for the woman, who rushes in to confront the men, jolting Vivian back to reality. But the old woman repeats the exact words Vivian had used earlier, revealing that the entire act was scripted. That night, Vivian hesitantly calls Ernesto, but as he answers, she quickly ends the call. She then watches a video of herself reporting on the Lupang Hainerang anti-land grabbing organization's protest against Caitlin development, which they accuse of trying to seize land from informal settlers. She mentions a tip about a secret negotiation with some residents, though the organization remains skeptical of Caitlin's intentions. Vivian then reveals the bodies of the informal settlers who had gone to negotiate with the Caitlin development group, now buried in the cement. As the video ends, Vivian hears a cat meow. She steps out to check, but finds nothing there, only to be shocked when she sees the cat now sitting on her desk. Confused, she approaches and tries to shoo it away, but the cat claws her hand before leaping off. Brushing it off, Vivian hits play on the raw footage, and it's revealed that while Vivian was reporting, chaos had unfolded right before her eyes. The informal settlers were savagely beaten, dragged into a pit, and buried alive under wet cement, and she did nothing to help them. Among the victims, a woman named Teresa curses the developers, and at Vivian too, because she saw her secretly reporting. Shocked, Vivian says, "This wasn't here before," and leans in to hear what the woman is saying. As she moves closer to the screen, a hand suddenly grabs her face, but she jolts awake from her sleep. Still shaken, Vivian notices a shadow outside. She steps out, calling for the guard, but receives no response, and just then, the lights go out. Vivian steps forward, calling out to the guard, asking if it's him, and only then does she notice a silhouette in the distance. As the figure begins to move toward her, she realizes it's a ghost, and as she turns around to flee, another ghost approaches from the opposite direction. Suddenly, something grabs her leg, causing her to fall as she struggles to break free. With fear in her eyes, she sees both ghosts advancing toward her from either side. But just as abruptly as they appeared, they vanish. She breathes a sigh of relief, only for two hands to seize her neck, and the two ghosts reappear, now very close to her. At that very moment, the guard arrives and asks if she is okay, but she is too stunned to utter a single word. The next day, when Vivian arrives to interview Ernesto, a woman appears at the scene, repeating the same words that Teresa had uttered as a curse, and to Vivian's shock, she discovers the bracelet in her pocket. The woman continues chanting the curse, and Louise turns around, only to see Vivian slipping the bracelet onto her wrist, with a strange smile spreading across her face. However, the next moment, Vivian sarcastically remarks how brilliant she is for choosing to do the interview outdoors. Seeing the bracelet, Vivian says she took it off last night. Louise asks, "Didn't you just put it on a moment ago?" But Vivian denies it and tells her to throw it away. The woman approaches Vivian and introduces herself as Amanda, Teresa's daughter. She shows Vivian Teresa's photo, explaining that Teresa was one of those buried alive in the cement, and says she hopes Vivian can get Ernesto to confess. Vivian points out that the court had released Ernesto, but Amanda insists he was a murderer, saying her mother had told her. Vivian asks how Teresa could have told her that, given that she was one of the victims of the massacre. to which Amanda grips her arm and replies, "Don't worry, my mother said she'll visit you too." Just then, Louise returns and informs Vivian that Ernesto is ready. The interview begins with Vivian, noting that many believe a 3-year sentence wasn't enough for Ernesto's crime. He admits the people he led into the construction site turned out to be killers and regrets it, but insists someone else gained more, someone who even became famous. He goes on to say that this person is more of an accomplice of him. Then, he says, "They say you can finally see them now," and when Vivian asks who these people are that she's supposedly seeing, Ernesto grabs her hand, and to her shock, she sees the same bracelet on his wrist. He looks at her and asks, "Don't you see them? At the corner of your eye, in the dark corners, and at the edge of your bed at night?" Just then, Vivian catches a glimpse of a ghost, and Ernesto leans in, telling her that she's next. He adds, he's so happy, because one of these days, they will come for her. But suddenly, Amanda shoots him straight in the eye, killing him instantly. As Vivian turns to Amanda, Teresa's ghost materializes behind her. Amanda then turns the gun on Vivian and tries to kill herself, but Jasper knocks her down, stopping her just in time. Louise asks Benji, "What's going on with Vivian?" To which Benji responds by playing a video on his system, raw footage of the massacre that Vivian recorded that night. He tells her that now she's seen everything, but Louise points out it was clearly spliced, and asks, "Is this why you chose to work in the archives? To alter that section?" Benji replies, "He's here to stay away from Vivian," and asks, "Why are you here?" And Louise answers, "To replace Vivian." Benji then sees a ghostly hand there, and seeing his reaction, when Louise turns, she sees no one there. She asks, "What is he looking at?" But he says, "I don't have the footage you are looking for," because when Vivian passed it to him, it was already deleted. He gives her a pen drive labeled Kitty Mary, and when she picks it up and asks about Kitty Mary, he replies, "The cat is the reason why Elaine died." Louise leaves with the pen drive, but Benji continues to see the ghosts, because he too was there that night. Frustrated and overwhelmed, he grabs a fork, and in a desperate act, drives it toward his own eye. The next day, Vivian meets the network's doctor and tells her that something inside her has changed, and she can now see spirits. The doctor replies that witnessing a murder can have a profound impact, but Vivian insists that there was a ghost standing beside the person who got shot, and he told her they were coming for her. The doctor explains that the clinical or psychological term for such apparitions is hallucinations, but Vivian argues that it's a curse, and it's all because of the bracelet. She then apologizes, admitting she's extremely stressed, to which the doctor says it's okay, and explains that hallucinations are a classic symptom of PTSD. She gently asks Vivian to recall everything and start from the beginning. Vivian glances to the side and sees a ghost there, whispering, "Everything you say stays in this room." Terrified, Vivian shuts her eyes, but the doctor encourages her again, telling her to share everything from the beginning. In a flashback, Vivian learns that her mother has a tumor on her left breast. She is asked if her company has a medical program that covers employees' families, to which she replies that they don't, and she can only apply for a loan. The next day, Vivian overhears Sylvia telling Elaine the network wants to turn her idea into a documentary. Elaine asks if both she and Vivian are in, but Sylvia says there's only one slot, and Vivian has no ideas. Later, Vivian talks to Elaine, who says nothing is decided yet and suggests she start pitching ideas. Vivian replies, she can't think of anything because her mom is sick, and though her mother is proud of her, she's about to learn her daughter might lose her job. Elaine suggests she recycle her ideas, and then shares an idea she is going to pitch. She says her maid claimed some dishes are made with cat meat. Vivian asks if it's true, to which Elaine admits she's not sure but wants to investigate and record a video on how they cook a cat. That night, desperate to save her job, Vivian kills her neighbor's cat, Kitty Mary, and cooks it. Vivian shows the cat cooking video to Sylvia, who likes it and tells her to turn it into a full-length feature. Vivian hesitantly says that they can't reveal the name of the restaurant, to which Sylvia agrees, and then tells her that she's hired. A few days later, after getting her mother's tumor operated on, Vivian returns home and is approached by Nanuka, who asks what she did to Kitty Mary. Vivian suggests the cat might be nearby, but Nanuka insists she knows Vivian hurt her. Lucy steps in, defending her, saying Kitty Mary probably just ran away or found someone who could care for her better. The doctor asks Vivian to start from the beginning, but when she insists she already has, the doctor replies she hasn't said anything at all. Vivian gets shocked to hear this, and the doctor asks if she is okay, to which she gets up, saying she has to go. As she steps into the hallway, the lights go out, and she hears a noise behind her, but no one is there. Suddenly, Louise emerges from a room, and a ghost appears behind Vivian. She rushes to the same door, but it's locked, and when she turns, Louise is there, but in a demonic form. Terrified, Vivian watches in horror as Louise reaches out, but then she vanishes. The next day, Vivian decides to interview Amanda and asks her why she killed Ernesto, to which Amanda calmly replies that she was only obeying her mother. After a moment, Teresa's ghost appears behind Amanda, and as Vivian turns over a photograph, she finds the same ominous words written on its back. Amanda tells her, "You don't know who you're up against," and reveals that her mother was no ordinary woman. Vivian pleads with Amanda to make the ghost leave, asking, "What does she want from me?" To which Amanda steps back and coldly says, "It's time to judge everything that has been done, and no one will be left unpunished." Vivian protests, saying you didn't do anything wrong and shouldn't be caught in all of this. But Amanda drops a shocking truth, that she was the one who sent them there. Vivian is stunned as Amanda confesses that she was blinded by the money she received, never imagining that her own mother would go along with the others. Vivian tries to calm her down, but Amanda lunges at her and yells, "Don't say my name. This is all your fault." Vivian insists, "I didn't kill them." But Amanda says, if a person sees something wrong and does nothing, that person is as evil as they. As Vivian calls out for help, Amanda threatens her, saying she will tell everyone about those people you killed, like Elaine. Vivian manages to break free from Amanda's grip, and Amanda looks back, as if seeking her mother's presence, and softly asks for forgiveness. She then turns back to Vivian with a hollow expression and slams her head against the metal bar. Vivian gasps, frozen in horror, as Amanda continues hitting her head repeatedly until she finally collapses to the ground. Later, Vivian calls Jasper and says, "Let's have dinner tonight and I'll sleep at your place." They meet, and Vivian tells Jasper that everyone connected to the cement massacre is dying, one by one. She shares that she called the jail and learned that 3 of the 4 killers are already dead. Jasper mentions Benji, pointing out that he's still alive, but Vivian replies that he doesn't want to talk to her. She then says it's a coincidence. Benji lives in a nearby building. Just then, their order arrives, and Vivian comments that spaghetti is Benji's favorite, to which Jasper says, "I know you miss him and want to talk to him. That's why I brought you here." Just then, Vivian's attention is drawn to a naked man walking down the street, and as he comes closer, both she and Jasper are stunned to realize it's Benji. He walks up to them and casually asks Vivian how she's doing, while they remain frozen in confusion and disbelief. Vivian says she thinks he forgot to put on some clothes, but Benji responds, "Tell my family, at my funeral, I'll wear a barong." Then, without warning, he grabs a fork and plunges it into his eye, gouging it out, and Vivian screams, only to jolt awake. Just then, she notices a man outside the window, and in the blink of an eye, Benji suddenly appears in front of her and lunges. But in the next moment, he vanishes into thin air. Jasper rushes to her and asks what happened and why she is screaming. He tries to calm her down and asks why she's saying Benji is dead, but just then, he receives a text and freezes in shock. A moment later, he tells her that Benji stabbed himself in the eye with a fork and died. The next day, she attends Benji's funeral, where his mother hands her his vape, saying he might look for it. Vivian says he can't use it anymore, but his mother insists, make him use it. It's the least you can do for him. Vivian hesitantly takes the vape from her and gently touches it to Benji's lips. She tells his mother it's done, and she replies, "That's good." But when Vivian looks back at Benji, she's horrified to see smoke rising from his mouth, Confused, she leans in for a closer look when suddenly, Benji's eyes snap open and he grabs her. After a while, Jasper and Louise wake her up, and Louise tells her they need to head to the office now. At the office, Louise tells Vivian she was the last person Benji spoke to before his forced suicide, and that he gave her the unedited cat food expos. She shows Vivian the video on her phone, and Sylvia adds that Benji edited her out to protect her. When Vivian says she needs a lawyer, Sylvia says if she's going to court, it's not for this. Louise then reveals Benji believed Vivian caused Elaine's death, and when Vivian asks how Benji would know that, Sylvia presses her if she and Elaine got into a fight, and whether she's to blame for the accident. Vivian refuses to answer, simply saying she won't say anything. In a flashback, Elaine confronts Vivian for stealing and faking her story. Vivian apologizes, saying you know about my mother, but Elaine threatens to expose her unless she confesses to Sylvia. Vivian pleads with her not to do it, but Elaine insists it would be better to expose her in a news report so that her beloved mother can see it too. Vivian begs her to let it go and tries to snatch her phone, which contains the raw footage. But in the struggle, Elaine is suddenly hit by a bus and dies instantly. Vivian is shocked, but instead of helping, she thinks only of herself and walks away, something Benji finds deeply disturbing. Back in the present, Vivian tells Sylvia she won't say anything, but Sylvia replies she already did. Shocked, Vivian is confused, and Louise questions her memory, then adds the real question is, who else has she killed? Vivian denies the accusation, saying they're imagining things, but Sylvia says they still need to investigate and suggests Vivian take a vacation. Vivian refuses, insisting she needs to solve this, but Sylvia suspends her and asks Louise to take over her slot. Later at home, Vivian's mother speaks to her. She blames herself, saying she gave Vivian the wrong idol. And when Vivian asks what she means, her mother reveals that her father wasn't the good man she always described. He was corrupt. Vivian is shocked and asks why she's only telling her this now. And did her father really die in an accident? To which her mother explains he was stabbed in the neck with an ice pick while smoking, and no one knows who paid to have him killed. Suddenly, Benji's ghost appears in front of Vivian, and in a flash, Jasper is in her mother's place, leaving her even more confused. She asks what he is doing here, to which Jasper says he's been talking to her for a while.
Since when did you
Vivian
know
says
about
he's
this?
a good person,
And what about
and
your
she doesn't
conscience?
want him to get hurt, because she's next to die. Benji throws coffee at her face and stands up, asking if she's lost her mind. He says she's just a little drunk and already giving up. Sitting down, he adds quietly, "That's not the Vivian he loves." Vivian asks, "You came all this way just to pour coffee on me?" To which Jasper replies that he's eager to defend her to the bosses, but he needs proof. He shows her a video, saying the woman in it is the one who cursed her. Vivian insists they'll never find her, but Jasper reveals he already did, using a facial recognition app linked to a news database. Her name is Diana, and she's the mother of one of the victims of the cement massacre. The next day, Vivian meets Diana at the cemetery, who tells her the curse is tied to her, and she prays over the bracelets while they're worn. Gently, Vivian pleads for a way to break the curse, but Diana refuses, saying Vivian must pay for what she did. She warns that they may be poor, but they have the power to fight back, and their supreme leader, Teresa, will enter her mind and destroy her from within. Suddenly, Vivian appears stunned, whispering, "Let me go," but Diana replies, "I'm not holding you." Snapping out of it, Vivian begs to tell her how to stop, but Diana simply gets up and walks away in silence. Frustrated, Vivian chases after Diana but stumbles and falls into an open grave. Suddenly, ghostly hands emerge from the grave walls, and to her horror, she sees a terrifying ghost with 2 heads. Just then, Jasper arrives and, hearing her cries for help, pulls her out just in time. As Vivian turns to leave, he stops her, saying they're not going anywhere until she tells him what really happened at the massacre. In a flashback, Amanda is seen meeting with Ernesto and a man from Caitlin Development at Vivian's mother's food joint. They agree that Ernesto will unlock the door at 9 a.m., and Amanda will send her people in. In return, the man hands Amanda and Ernesto a packet full of money. Vivian overhears their conversation, and when Ernesto gives the man his phone number, she quietly takes note of it. Next, we see Vivian texting Ernesto, posing from Caitlin Developers, and she discovers that the real plan is to kill the informal settlers by burying them in cement. Later, Benji confronts Vivian, accusing her of doing everything just to become famous. He then asks who she called earlier and what she's getting involved in now, to which Vivian tells him that she's planning to cover an expose. Benji decides to go with her and asks if they shouldn't call the police, to which Vivian tells him she already did, and they should be arriving any minute now. Vivian begins her reporting, but as people arrive, Benji anxiously asks if the police are actually coming. Vivian hesitantly says she is calling, and Benji asks if getting a scoop really matters that much to her. They then realize there's no signal on their phones, and he urges her again, "Let's go and call the police." But Vivian insists they can't leave now. Reluctantly, Benji starts recording everything, even though he clearly doesn't want to. One of the women tells Teresa that her daughter, Amanda, is the one who asked them to come and that she's behind all of this. Benji says he can't take it anymore, but Vivian insists they're not doing anything wrong. They're just reporting the truth. He suggests again that they leave and call the police. But just then, they overhear Ernesto saying he thinks someone might be watching them because someone may have overheard their conversation in the canteen. Benji asks Vivian if she knows who the killers are, but she denies it. Suddenly, the killers begin shooting at the people, and then they run away from there. Benji asks, "Since when did you know about this? And what about your conscience?" He then leaves there, saying, "Why did you do this?" But Vivian, desperate for a scoop, picks up the camera and pushes forward alone. Jasper tells Vivian he's not sure what she did was a crime, but what he does know is that curses are all in the mind, and maybe it's just guilt. Vivian pulls out her phone and says she has to take a call, but Jasper says, "No one's calling you." Vivian then sees Ernesto holding her mother at knife point, and he tells her, "We've all been waiting for you." Panicked, she asks what he plans to do to her mother, and Ernesto coldly replies, "If you can't make it, then let's swap lives." He adds that he'll bury her mother in cement, just like they did with their victims. She and Jasper rush to Caitlin, and while Jasper parks the scooter, Vivian runs inside, frantically searching for her mother. A short while later, when Jasper enters, Vivian strikes him and knocks him unconscious. Vivian finally finds her mother and rushes to her, asking if she's okay, to which her mother nods and asks, "Why did you tell me to come here?" Confused, Vivian insists she never called, but her mother claims they had a video call and that she said it was an emergency. Vivian realizes someone must have been impersonating her and urges her mother to leave, but her mother pulls away and asks her to prove it's her. That's when Vivian notices a hand on her mother's neck, and her mother asks, "Are you really Vivian? Or the bad person?" Vivian confesses, "It's me, but I'm also the bad person." She admits the deaths were her fault, and that she told herself it was all for her mother, but deep down, she also wanted fame and success. Her mother says, "You need to pay for your sins," and the lights begin to flicker. Vivian asks, "What do I have to do?" And when her mother answers, "Jump off the building," Vivian realizes this isn't her mother, it's Teresa. Meanwhile, Vivian's real mother arrives at the scene, and at the same moment, Vivian watches in terror as the victims of the massacre begin to emerge grotesquely from Teresa's body, their twisted forms moving toward her. They lunge at her, and in the chaos, Vivian falls, but manages to hang on to the edge. Just then, Jasper rushes in and reaches out to her, urging her to hold on. But his grip slips, and Jasper is left clutching only her bracelet, as Vivian plummets to the ground, landing fatally in front of her mother's eyes. Next, we see that Vivian has survived that fall and is still alive. Her mother gently tells Vivian that she just needs to rest and recover, and soon she'll fulfill her dream of becoming a star reporter. With pride in her voice, she introduces Vivian to her customers, saying she's just resting now, but you'll see she'll be back on TV in no time. After a while, Vivian suddenly notices a customer leaving the same bracelet on the table. and her face pales, realizing the curse hasn't left her after all.